So it's pretty funny when you see the Biden administration and you see a lot of these sanctuary cities that was governed the name from Donald Trump do all these different things to basically touch on the migrant crisis that's been happening for a while. And my whole entire thought process on why they decided to do the whole entire thing with migrants is because in response to the pandemic, number one, because of the whole entire workforce, as well as trying to up a particular state's GDP. Now, the thing about it is that it's funny always watching these situations go on when popular cities like New York City, for example, is in a migrant crisis because they don't know what to do with all these influx of immigrants that's coming from Texas all the way to New York City, and as well as other metropolitan areas that's following around the same rhetoric as New York City's. Now, the thing about it is that you get exactly what you asked for. When you sat there and said it's okay to bring all these immigrants in, and then you didn't know where to house them, you didn't know where to put them, now you're in big trouble because not only is it going to affect people paying the taxes for these newcomers coming to the land or coming to the city, but it's also going to be a big problem because of where they're going to be basically stored at. And with that being said, human bodies, every necessity and need before they go out into the workforce and they're working, and especially the low cut stuff that Biden in particular had did when it came to the immigrants, such as the popularized Karina mandates that was happening, where different cities that took on very strict regulations in order for someone to have a livelihood, to enjoy recreational activities, and so on and so forth. What they did was basically put it under wraps. And because you are an immigrant, we will loosen you up on the mandate so that you are able to have a life here, but make it unfair for the other Americans who don't believe in the same things that they believed in and what they try to garner on other people. With that being said, today I'm going to be reviewing a video in which I find it comical a little bit, because the fact of the matter is you've done all these different things for these immigrants, and now it's getting so bad that you're trying to send them to other counties and towns outside the New York City limits, and they're not having it either. So let's watch this clip, y'all. Let's see what I'm talking about. Hey.
Now to the latest on the migrant crisis, as we know, have arrived here in the past few weeks.
And as the city continues to struggle with sheltering them, officials are facing backlash from other counties that do not want to help with housing. Fox 5's.
Now, this is the thing also before we begin on this video. The funny thing about cities like New York that's taken upon this approach and now realizing they're having all these problems. My whole entire thing is that you tried to put them in these different immigrant, like trying to use them and cater them around in these different places, opening up these former buildings, hotels, and all these different things, but also tried to have them with homeless people. Now, as you know, especially in inner cities, and especially men being the highest population of homeless people, you try to put them with homeless people in the shelters, and that didn't work. You know what I'm saying? It's just funny to see these crazy things go on.
Briella Tomasetti, she joins us live from Roosevelt Hotel with more details. And Briella, that's the latest site where the city is housing migrants.
Yeah, Deshani and Dan, that's right. The Roosevelt Hotel actually indefinitely closed its doors 3 years ago, back in 2020, due, of course, to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now the hotel has reopened its doors, but there's a difference here. It is exclusively for asylum seekers, and we are expecting buses of them, another bus possibly coming as soon as 6 o'clock this morning.
Now, I want you to pay attention to this. Usually what we have to understand, whether you are a deep thinker like I am and you start to see things for what they are, the government always uses the vulnerable population to shovel them around. And this, in my opinion, is a prelude to how they're going to do things in the future with not only the quote unquote smart cities, but also just things like how we've heard those different things about how They close up a lot of these department stores and all those different things, convert them into concentration camps and all that other stuff. This is something you got to keep in mind, especially when it comes to something like this. They will get the migrants first, and they'll get the homeless. And then as laws become stricter and more of this stuff starts to come around because of people start to resist, then they will use this as a catalyst to be like, well, this happened this time and age, and now we're going to embark on it again. So it's just something I want you to pay attention to.
Buses carrying dozens of migrant families from Texas pulled into Port Authority over the weekend. This coming as the city continues to run out of space to house them.
Unfortunately, we're going to see a lot of families stranded and abandoned.
For many asylum seekers, the journey here has been long and arduous. After arriving in New York, some feel they're now being shuffled from one place to another.
In the shelter where I was over on 21st Street, they told me to come here because there was no more room there.
Last night, 300 new arrivals were bussed over to the Roosevelt Hotel, the city's latest intake center for those in need. 175 rooms have initially been reserved for families with children.
We received in several days last week alone over 900 migrants on days. Over 2 weeks ago, approximately 4,200 in 1 week.
According to Mayor Adams, more than 70,000 migrants have arrived in the Big Apple over recent months, and 42,000 are still under city care. The city has tried to transfer asylum seekers to neighboring counties to help cope with the influx, but the move was met with intense pushback.
No illegal immigrants, because you know what? My taxes got to pay for these people to go to school here.
The latest place to sound the alarm is Suffolk County out on Long Island, where local officials are pursuing legal action to halt a so-called plan to house asylum seekers in hotels there. The mayor.
And the funny thing about it is a lot of these like neighboring counties and stuff like that, of course, they're going to pull a whole entire NIMBY type of rhetoric when it comes to this, and rightfully so. And the thing about it is, if the city was really about their job, then they would be able to already have plans and working when this whole entire thing of the migrant crisis, before the migrant crisis even happened. But of course, in typical fashion, just because it was this whole entire thing about helping these individuals, because on a backhand, because the city is broke, the state is broke, a lot of these states and a lot of these metropolitan areas did not recover from Karina. So in order for it to be a fair and balanced game, they say, hey, we need to have immigrants come to this country in order for us to help, make sure we get the workforce up and running again and continue to have more people come here so that we are able to fill in all the slots of these empty jobs in these empty places. You understand what I'm saying? And especially a city like New York, as I always am going to talk about on this channel, there's many different things they could have done to help out the vulnerable population before the migrants came here, especially the homeless population and people who's looking for affordable housing and looking for a place to work as well. But ignore all that for the migrants you can't even house in your own city. Ridiculous.
The mayor's office has not confirmed those plans.
The residents of Suffolk County should not have to shoulder the burden of the failed policies of the Biden and Hochul administrations.
Yeah, and an update on this, Mayor Adams and Governor Hochul will be holding a joint press conference later this morning in Brooklyn, calling on the feds to provide expedited work authorization for asylum seekers. The city applied for $350 million in federal aid. So far, though, FEMA has only promised just $30 million. For now, though, we're live outside the Roosevelt Hotel. Dan and Tashani, back to you.
All right, Bria.
And that's the end of the video. But the whole entire thing of seeing this out loud, just to report on this, is just so funny to see how the Biden administration is just going haywire after they're spending all this money to go ahead and give out to Ukraine, especially adopting them this F-16 jet that they're trying to put out there. And then when it comes to all these migrant issues, it's like they're trying to figure out where to shelves and store all these new people who's coming to the land. America's a mess, man. America definitely is Babylon, the last days, whatever you want to call it. And especially these different things that you're hearing that the Secretary of Finance or whoever it was is supposed to be might be running out of American dollars by June, which is only the next couple of days by now. But otherwise than that, give me your thoughts in the comment section. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Peace.